I was a football player, I was a wrestler, I was a partier, I was a college athlete, I was an inmate, I was a felon, I was a drug dealer, I was a drug user, so I've had a lot of identities. But when I got out and I got released from prison, my new identity was I'm going to be somebody that's going to be able to help everybody. I'm going to be able to start something.
Hey there, welcome back to Above and Beyond, where excellence meets elevation. I'm your host, Jan Simon, and this season we're raising the bar, diving into the passion, purpose, and defining moments of leaders who don't just aim high, they live there. Big ideas, real stories. Let's get into it. What if the lowest moment of your life became the foundation of everything great that followed? Today's guest knows that story firsthand. After serving 2 years in federal prison, he made a choice to stop letting his past write his future. From that decision came Move Human Performance Center in Chandler, a place where pro athletes are relearning to walk, train side by side. He's not just a fitness guy, he's a certified behavioral change specialist, author of Mind Over Virtually Everything, and a man who's turned struggle into strength and pain into purpose. In this episode, we talk redemption, mindset, and what it really takes to rebuild your life from the ground up. This is Above and Beyond, where excellence meets elevation, and I give you Chad Dunn.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it very much.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate you coming on, and I'm excited about this. I know very little about you, so we're going to dig deep and see where it goes.
We got mutual. We got mutual. B-Ray. Yep, B-Ray's always. I got to give a shout out to B-Ray.
There you go. Yeah.
Hooking up a good
I appreciate Brennan introducing and do a few of the episodes and saying, hey, I got a guy that I think would be great on your show. So
obviously stuff with the kids that he's had, the whole thing too. It's just going through and helping them out, become the best people and athletes that they can be. And again, it's going above and beyond, like you said.
So let's start way back in history. Tell me about Chad growing up.
Chad's a extreme sports athlete. Started racing BMX bikes young. I like thrills. I like spills.
It's back in the spider bikes and the old BMX where you got the mag wheels and all that stuff.
1980.
There you go.
Where it starts. Skyway tough wheels. We have all those.
Where we thought, jumping off a 2-foot jump was really high.
I got the 5-gallon bucket. My dad put a piece of wood on the 5-gallon bucket. It didn't go out so well the first time.
Yeah.
Ended up right over the handlebars. So Colorado, and that was a little different race in Colorado. So it was more seasonal.
Okay.
I've never raced indoors on a cement track with wooden jumps until I got to Colorado and was racing. So wintertime, the tracks freeze up. It's cold outside. You got snow. Yep. So we had indoor racing. So spray your tires with hairspray so they stick on the concrete.
No kidding.
That's a trick.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So were you more of a race BMX racer, or were you doing tricks, or were you doing both? Or?
I was more the BMX racer. So you have freestyle and you have all the vert ramp, which that all came along later. Mm-hmm. Dave Muir, matter of fact, Jose Llanes was a guy out here in Arizona. He was the first guy to do a backflip on a bike. Okay. They met him at the Salt Lake. He was doing backflips into the right by the blue. I think it's the Blue Corner Bridge or something. Okay. He was doing backflips into the river. So that was about 1984. They got him out here. And obviously ABA BMX or USA BMX, they're local in Arizona.
Yeah.
So I was just at my sister. She got inducted last week into the Arizona BMX Hall of Fame.
No kidding.
She's 54 years old. She's still racing. Yep.
That's awesome.
So we were there with all the old school people, the new school, and at that time it was fun for me because it kind of set up my my identity of being an athlete. I got into football. I got into wrestling. I got as everybody else happens, I got hurt wrestling my senior year. No big deal. I got into physical therapy. Was doing physical therapy. I knew this was kind of something that I wanted to do. So I love being around athletes. And my dad, my mom, they were sports people. My family, watching sports. And we had the HBO back in the day, the black box, where you get to watch Muhammad Ali and everybody, right? So we grew up watching boxing in the basement.
You have the paper clip in the back, so you
get the extra channels. So you get the extra channels. Yeah, the kids don't know about that. But we had to boost stuff back in the day, right? So, but that was sports is competition, and that's what I look at the way life is. I look at life as competition. So.
Nice. Growing up, Colorado, were you in Colorado all through?
Until I was 10. So I moved out here in '84. Yep. So you talk about kind of losing everything. My mom and dad had a construction company as we were growing up. Snow plowing. I didn't know construction in the summertime and then snow plowing in the wintertime. That was kind of the whole job of it all. But then that recession hit in '82, '84, and so my parents had a decision either to keep everything or to give everything back. And my grandmother and my grandfather on my mom's side, they lived out here, so they decided, let's pack up everything and let's go to Arizona. Obviously, it's better weather for Chad and Holly to race on, but then it'll be close to my mom's mom and dad. And so I think that was one of the major things that came out here. Now, what people don't know is that, again, my parents, they lost everything, right? So we packed up a Cordova station wagon, right, with the brown on the side, right, the brown on the side. We had a little tent trailer in the back, right, that my parents bought. I think it slept 4. Okay. And then when I first moved out here, I moved to a KOA campground.
No kidding.
Right, so for the first 30 days, basically, we were homeless. I mean, not homeless, but we had a campground to go to on Wrecker Road in McKellips. right? So
Wow.
I was
And it was
at
probably out
East
in the
Mesa.
middle of nowhere.
That was my first taste of Apache Junction,
Yeah,
right? And I'm
right.
like, and I wasn't used to it. In Colorado, we had a 6-story house. That you had all the stuff, the boats, the toys, and all that. But it's finances. It was something there. So seeing that, I don't know if that really said anything to what I was to explore later in life. But I remember that as a kid, it was just keep going. I saw my dad do it. My dad got a job out here for 30 days. Next thing we know, we moved into a townhouse. We actually went to Tempe, and then I went to Marcos Deniza. I went to Kyrene Junior High and went to Marcos Deniza in Tempe. Then I seen my dad, build up from a townhouse. I seen him go get a house, and they bought. As a matter of fact, they still live in that same house that they bought originally.
Oh, really?
Right now, yeah, to this day over here. So, I saw that happening, but that's my dad. That's his way of life. He was a country guy. There's a ranch. My grandfather's ranchers, cowboy. So hard work.
Did your dad end up reopening the construction stuff out here?
No, my dad's very conservative after that.
Oh, okay.
Right? So he said, I'll go to work for somebody because I ain't losing nothing ever again.
Makes sense.
Yep. And he's, he stocks, he's a low risk kind of guy. He'll do stuff, but he understands the value of losing everything.
Yeah.
And that plays into when I opened up Move, when I was trying to find financing and I was trying to do different things to find Move. It was hard. I looked for angel investors. I went to the bank, but being a convicted felon, that was hard to get a loan from that aspect. So I sat down on my last things. I talked to my dad and I said, this is what it's going to cost and this is what I'm looking at. And he said, son, are you willing to lose everything, including your wife and your family? He goes, because we did. We did. He goes, and you saw the struggles, but you didn't see it as a struggle at that time.
Yeah.
He goes, are you willing to lose all that? And I said, I'm not worried about that.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about it. I know I'm going to make this work. And then with him, it's how are you going to make that work? I said, well, because if I can do this, he said, if don't make you no money. I understand. He said, well, I said, but I got this to come. He said, buts don't make you no money either.
Wow.
He said, how are you going to do this? So I had to put a plan together, sat down with him, gave him enough, and he said, all right, let's go for it. He goes, but I'm just letting you know, are you willing to lose your house? I said, I am. I am.
Yeah. Well, and I think that speaks volumes to, anybody listening that's starting a business or in business, in the early years of being in business, because I think that in what I've seen anyways, there's this, I'll call it a veil of, okay, I got to punch through this. Yep. And everything gets really, really hard and really, really dark and really, really heavy. And you got to say, okay, how far am I willing to go? And how much support are the people around me willing to push at me, give to me? So moving out to Arizona, got into sports, BMX, you said wrestling?
Yeah, BMX, wrestling, play football.
Football.
Yep. But I was never big. I was 5'2", 125 pounds in high school.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
so you're a lightweight wrestler.
Yes, so I wrestled 119 and 125s.
Okay.
I played football. I got my ass kicked every time.
Yeah.
Even though I was good, it was size. It was size.
I wrestled the second grade through college.
Okay.
So
yep.
But I always I wrestled up. We had 3 guys we all grew up together from second grade on. And I was the stronger of us, but the smallest of us.
Yeah.
And
that makes a good wrestler. That makes a good wrestler.
So I wrestled up. But anyway, so a lot of lessons to be learned, I think, on the mat.
Well, they we had a guy that was his wife was a big person for psychology stuff, and they were doing for Navy SEALs.
Oh wow!
And so they went through. They did a whole personality test. They did a whole psychological evaluation on the whole general population. And they went to athletes, and they went to athletes to see who could do it all. And wrestlers became the number one person, the requirement that they look for a candidate to be a Navy SEALs. You're a very strong individual, but you do good well in a team setting.
Yeah.
You don't give up, and you're willing to sacrifice.
Totally makes sense.
Totally. And so what they do now is they look for people that are wrestling.
Yeah. Anybody in high school or before influence you one way or the other? With regards to who you became?
Well, as the whole circle unfolds, and the story came around with Move, and it's the guy Eddie King. And Eddie King was a former BMX Diamondback racer when the Diamondback bikes came out. Harry Larry was another one at that time that was coming around. As a young kid, you look up to these pros and you look up to everybody. And everybody really knows the story with Eddie. But again, Eddie broke his back. So 2014, I want to say it was, Eddie broke his back up in Big Bear. And I just happened to reach out to him and said, hey, if you ever get a chance to come to Phoenix, I'd like to do your rehab. I'm paralyzed, And I didn't know anything about spinal cord. I did a lot of orthopedic, ankles, knees, ACLs. So when I had Eddie, this takes me back to my childhood of BMX, right? I loved BMX. I loved all that stuff. But again, it just kind of, like I said, it set me up for my future. Yeah. It wasn't my identity. I went through a bunch of identities. I was a football player. I was a wrestler. I was a partier. I was a college athlete, I was an inmate. I was a felon. I was a drug dealer. I was a drug user, so I've had a lot of identities. But when I got out and I got released from prison, my new identity was I'm going to be somebody that's going to be able to help everybody. I'm going to be able to start something, and Eddie was one of the main key people behind it. So, one of the influencers is I got to go back to Eddie.
Walk me through, if you will, what happened to get you into trouble? I mean, we don't have to go into details
Yeah, no,
if you don't
yeah,
want to,
yeah.
but what happened? I mean, because as an athlete,
Sure.
having been an athlete myself, you kind of focus hardcore on the straight and narrow for the most part.
Your body's your temple.
Yeah. So what happened?
My senior year and junior year when I was, not playing football and I was wrestling. Wrestling was a winter sport, so it was fun. I could go do all the football stuff early on when we got going. Matter of fact, that's when for me everything started. We had the Friday night parties. We partied and had all the parties before the football games. Whether you're drinking or not. So, people are smoking. I never smoked weed. I never did drugs in high school. My first drug I did do was in 8th grade was acid. And it was only because we had these two girls. Again, I've never ever thought I'd do drugs in my whole life. But it was one of these things, these upperclassmen came over. They gave these girls some acid. My friends were sitting there like, wait, this looks like crazy. So we took a little bit of it all, and that was the first drug I ever did, right? Never done it. I mean, I didn't get hooked on it, did it later on. But I was like, wait a second, this is something that's kind of, it was an out-of-body experience type deal, So I was kind of shied away from that, My parents drank, my dad drank, so alcohol was never a problem. Go to Rocky Point on the weekends, never a problem. But again, as a wrestler, and doing things and an athlete, I always did. I always cared about health.
Yeah.
Went to ASU, exercise science. I studied exercise science, kinesiology. I love the biomechanics. I don't really care about program development. That's not really my specialty. I'm good at it, obviously, through experience. I do it now. But my major focus was in the biomechanics of everything. I love how the body works. So that was always what my focus was. But then I started partying in high school. I think the first day at ASU, I got a DUI.
Oh, wow.
Right. 3 years later on MTV had the biggest spring break party thing. They had everybody going up there. I think MTV just shut down their whole doors. So this dates us back. But it was the first time MTV was going to be up there. 3 years after my first DUI, I got a second DUI. Right. So now I got I got two within 5 years. I flipped my car on that one. Thankfully, everything was okay. My buddy was in the car with me. Nobody died. It was, again, should have been a lesson, but it was a freak accident, and I don't learn from freak accidents. Right. 2 years later, I got another DUI.
Oh, wow.
Right. In total, I got 5-6 DUIs right now.
Oh, my God.
Yep. And I still got a driver's license and I'm driving, which is so.
Jeez.
Yeah. And so my whole thing is entertainment. I love entertainment.
Yeah.
Right? I'm a high energy guy. I love the vibe. I love sports because it's a team stuff, but I also love celebrating after victories, right? Or I love celebrating before victories. And really, what happened, I started celebrating and creating my own victories.
Yeah.
Training athletes and working. I worked in the Arcadia district. As soon as I started working, I was on 32nd Street in Camelback. So I'm training the who's who of everybody. I have a lot of athletes. Not just at my business, but when I was at the Q, the sports club, we had a lot of people, the affluent people from Phoenix. I was at the Phoenix Open in '96s, right? That's when it was party. I think right before when we started, we got a 30-pack of beer. It was like 7:00 in the morning. Went to the Phoenix Open. Yeah. I had no idea you could drink at a golf tournament. Now, if you look at it, the magnitude of everything,
all it is. Yeah.
Everybody's ready. I don't even go there anymore, just because again, we started all that stuff way back in the day. Yeah. So again, it was my choices, right? It was just again choices, and a lot of it to this day, I still say it's alcohol. Right?
Yeah.
It was alcohol. I started going out to parties, obviously the clubs, nightclubs, doing all that. But then I found out people like to do cocaine, right? So I do cocaine. And it was easy for me because I had friends in the South Side. So I have a lot of high school friends on 24th Street and Broadway, families. I have a lot of connections all the way down to Rozier. And it's not the good part of town. But again, curiosity. I love curiosity.
Yeah.
Right. And again, curiosity leads to learning. So that's where I'm at now. At that time, I didn't know they were going to be learning lessons. It was more of just a hustle, right? It was a job. I was going to be able to be the guy to be able to supply the cocaine, do whatever I needed to do. Until one night I started smoking crack. Now, next thing you know, I was living in South Phoenix. On the streets. Wasn't selling no more because I didn't have no money. I used everything.
Yeah.
Don't get high on your own supply. That was the number one rule. But they got worse and worse and worse and worse. And then pretty soon now I don't know who I am. I'm running around with the wrong crowds. I'm doing different things. Now I still have my friends though. I was still doing fitness stuff as well. As I was trying to hold on to it. Matter of fact, I would smoke crack and then go take a spin class and go teach a spin class.
Oh my gosh.
Right? How I had a heart attack blows my mind.
Yeah, blow your...
we played 7-on-7 full contact flag football on the weekends, and I would smoke crack before I go out there and play football. Wow. And I kept telling myself, well, that's what they did in the 70s, right? The old guys in the NFL, they do a line of cocaine before they went out and played. So, again, it was through you'll be okay. I've seen other people do it before. Yeah. That's not a good thing to do.
No.
That's not a good thing to do.
Not a great way to live your life.
No. And I'm very fortunate I've made it through those time periods, I forgot, somebody asked me the other day, they said, well, when was the last time you were ever in the hood, or last time you ever went down there? And why did you not go back? And I had to think about it. I was taking these two guys, and I was taking them to go do a beer run. Right? We needed to go get some dope, and we had no money. I was the driver. I always had a car. I always had a car because my parents helped out, and we went to go do a beer run, and these guys were speaking Spanish, that they're going to cut my neck and steal my car and kill me, basically, and then take off. I do speak Spanish, and so I understood. They didn't know that I knew Spanish, and so I was kind of diffracted. I was deterred, I was buying time. I was doing whatever I could do until we got to that spot where I had to go. It was a Circle K, or it was a 7-Eleven on 21st Street and McDowell. I pulled into the side of it. I backed in like I was supposed to do. They took off to run inside, and I got the hell out of there and never went back. Right. And that was the end of my smoking crack days. They said, well, weren't you addicted to it? I said I wasn't addicted to dying, so I never went back and smoked that shit again.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was easy, and it was easy because there was a value of life. It wasn't the drug itself that was going to take it. It was somebody else, a human body, that was going to take my life. And so I said, you know what? At that point in time, you can't control things, and you were in a bad environment. You're in a bad environment. So I got out of that and got back into doing what I need to do. I was working selling water. Our health company, they had a Premium Waters water company that was at it.
Yeah.
So Frank Leonazio, the owner of that, he had the queue. And so I was working with Frank. He called me up and they said, we need some help selling water. Again, my job, even as a trainer nowadays and working in physical therapy, we were really all salespeople. Any business is sales, and I love sales. I was a good, drug dealer and everything else. I was a good sales guy. So when they told me that you had to sell water in the desert, I said, how hard can this be?
Right.
I'll be your best salesperson. I have a niche. Everything I do, I have a niche. So I started selling water. I was a top seller and everything else. Doing good, everything was fine. And then my high school friends, again, some friends I was with, had some illegal enterprise where they were taking drugs back and forth to Hawaii. And it got to be where they needed some people to bring money back. We had to get some money back from Hawaii. So my last crime that I did is I went back over there. I brought back a large amount of money. Came back here. Everything was fine. I dropped it off. I did what I had to do. 3 months later, I was getting ready to go to work. I just got out of the shower, 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm looking out my window. I pull my shirt over my head, and I see the SWAT team, the Phoenix Police, the Mesa Police, the Chandler Police. I see everybody coming running. And I was at my parents' house, right? Because that was kind of my home base. I lived there, but it was my home base. I was on the run. I was on the streets doing whatever. And it just when I had to go take a shower, and I had to get out and ready to go do stuff. Right? I was getting ready to go to work. So I see them run to my parents' house, And the only thing out of my mouth when I sounded, I heard my mom come out her room. I said, oh shit, here they come. And I hear her say, who's coming? And the only thing I could say is the fucking SWAT team. Right? And I didn't want them to beat down the front door, so I ran over there, opened up the door, 3207, we got to search, boom. Next thing you know, I'm on the ground.
Wow.
So yeah. So that's how it started. It started with being sports, going to ASU, getting partying, but that was more than my scholastics. Again, like I said though, my brain is always working. I'm very smart and things, and it was kind of like I don't know if I was ever really applying it in school.
Yeah.
I needed something challenging. I needed something that was challenging for me. I knew a second language. I was doing different things. And I was already working in my career too, so I had to go do an internship. Why would I stop working and not get paid when I was already doing it? So I was kind of a transition in the 90s where I was able to do it, and again, the education nowadays as a trainer and doing different things, there's possibilities of doing it. Business owner, I wish I went to physical therapy school because then right at the very beginning I wouldn't have had to hire a therapist. So it kind of became a financial burden when I opened up Move, but we've made it work and everything's been successful. And so like anything else in life, I'm going to make it work. So it was kind of a cool up and downs, I said before, I took a wrong turn in life, and then one of the guys I was talking to, he says, but was that really ever a wrong turn?
Well, and that's the thing, right? Is it a wrong turn or is it something you needed to learn?
Yeah, I use an analogy now. It's like GPS on your phone. You missed a corner, you missed a turn, or let's say you take a wrong turn.
Yeah.
It doesn't just stop right there.
Reroutes.
Yeah. And that's what I had to do. I had to reroute my life.
Yeah.
I had to reroute my
life. So you got incarcerated.
Yep.
You could have, really, truly, life's about choices, right?
All day.
So you get incarcerated.
Yep.
How did you not fall victim to reincarceration later and all the stuff that could have gone bad while you were there?
Well, you said the key word there is victim, right? I was never a victim. I'm never a victim. I never had victim mentality. I did everything I put myself into and everything else. When I was on pretrial, once I got arrested, they flew me from here. I went to Oklahoma City to the major transfer center on Con Air. Wow. I was there for 2, 3, 4 weeks, I want to say, doing processing. They put me on a Con Air and flew me back to Riverside County, California. So I was there for another 2 weeks until they flew me to Hawaii. I saw a judge there. The judge, I had no bail here on the States. I had no bail till I got to Hawaii. They gave me a $25,000 bail. So I got released on pretrial. Came out here with restrictions, As you said, not going back and not getting in trouble, my past from being released. I had so much trouble before going into prison that I knew when I got in there that it was over with.
Yeah.
I got 3 more DUIs on pretrial release.
Wow.
Right? And you're not supposed to be drinking.
Yeah.
Right? But my life was in limbo. I didn't know if I was going to be going tomorrow. I didn't know if I was going to be going for 25 years, 5 years, 3 years, because, again, the magnitude of all this stuff, and what they're trying to find out. I didn't know. But one of the things that happened is that when I went and met a friend when I got out, went to a bar, the Dirty Drummer in Tempe. It was on there, McClintock and Apache.
Yep.
Walked in there, we sat down, we were going to shoot the shit. Not supposed to be drinking, but the first thing I went to a bar. Right? And I tell everybody now, if you don't want to drink, don't go to a bar. If you don't want a haircut, don't go to a barber shop.
Yeah.
It's choices. You said it's choices. So at that point in time, though, again, I didn't care. Right? I thought I was indestructible. I've gotten these DUIs. I've been arrested. I've got out of the hood. I've survived people want to try to cut my neck. I'm not worried about nothing. So I went to sit with my friend. Bartender comes walking up. What do you want to drink? My friends, a typical ball buster, icebreaker, the best guy, the best wingman to have. He started kind of hitting on her, and she's like, whatever, I don't give a shit about you. What do you want? And so I told her, and that day I told her, I said, I'm going to marry her. I said, I'm going to marry you. Right? And she said, get in line. So I kept on going back there day after day after day. 8 months later, I got a date. Right? Jackie says, hey, do you want to go out? I said, yeah, let's go out, right? Matter of fact, the first night, though, I said, I don't have time because she told me for 8 months she didn't have time, so I had to play a little hard to get at first. Yeah. I went home, I didn't sleep that night. I was banging the bed, like, shit. But I knew that
Don't pick up the phone. Don't pick up the phone. Don't pick up.
I didn't want to be that guy, right? I didn't want to be excited. So the next night, though, we did actually went out. And it was actually morning because she worked till 2 o'clock in the morning. I had to be at work at 7. We were sitting, and she knew a little bit about some of my stuff, but I didn't really, not a lot. Not a lot. So we get done eating breakfast that morning or whatever it was. I opened up my console, my car, we're sitting there, right? And I pull out this manila file, right? And I give it to her. She goes, what's this? It's not a bouquet of flowers. Right? Most guys give dates on anything. It was my indictment.
Wow.
Right, it was my indictment. And she read this whole thing. Briefly, she looked at the front of it all. And she looked at me, she said, so people make mistakes. People make mistakes.
Wow.
And I thought, you know what? I told you from day one, I'm going to marry you. I'm going to marry you. So that was my driving force.
Wow.
That was my driving force. We were together ever since, right? Here we are 20 years later. We've been married for 16.
Wow.
People say, Chad, why don't you stress? Or they say, what do you fear? There's only one thing I fear, and that's snakes, right? I don't fear anything else because fear is when your girlfriend drops you off at the Federal Marshal's building downtown and you got to go self-surrender for 30 months, not knowing if you're ever going to see her again.
Yeah.
Because you're just dating, right? I don't want to lose my why.
Yeah.
But I have to. I've got something that came in. So went to prison. Day one, I got a job in there, right? I don't know how it happened, but I got a job. Again, I'm always a hard worker. I'm not going to sit there and just clean toilets or porter or whatever. I went in there, I started building the facility. So we did a whole visitation construction center. We built slender block. We built the whole building. I did everything that was on the construction side of it all. Obviously, I had a little construction background. But I did that I did it to stay busy. I did to stay busy. I'm not a victim, so I don't want to sit down with everybody else. I think I was making 16 cents an hour, I think is what it was. But it was more of the feeling for me of you're still doing something.
Yeah, purpose.
Yep. Being a personal trainer, there was a lot of people in there that wanted to stay in shape. Movement is medicine. So we had a big weight pile. Thankfully, I was in the federal system, so it's a little bit easier. Obviously, I was in a minimal security prison at this time, so we had a 10,000 square foot weight pile. We could go work out all day long. We had a track, basketball court, so it was full of activities. About the first week there, I met 2 friends. One of my guys is my best buddy now, is Robbie Kessling. Robbie just got done serving 19 and a half years. Right? Out of Washington, drug crime and whatever. But the first day I got there, Robbie grabbed me and says, you're going to be all right. Come with me. We went and worked out together. He says, now you got to enroll in school. Okay? We have Eastern Arizona Community College that comes out here. I got a business administration class we're doing, a business marketing. You're going to get here. You'll get some associate credits. You'll have all that stuff. You'll be fine. So I started going to school. So I worked during the daytime. I went to school at nighttime and worked out in the middle. Right? So I had a plan. I'd get to call Jackie on the phones at night times. I still get to see her. She'd come up on a weekend and visit me. Right? So everything's going great. And again, I'm going to make the best of this, because I know when I come out, I've got a future. Right? I've got a future. I've got Jackie.
And then when you got out, is that when you went into water sales and stuff, or was that?
Well, no, I was doing the water sales before. Yeah, so I was doing the water sales right before. And so a part of that whole thing too is it's kind of funny is that we We did take a water cooler. You have one that has got the hot water in it. You have the other ones that have the cold water. There's a big weight difference in there. It's about 60 pounds or so. So we did fill one cooler full of drugs and shipped it over there.
Oh, wow.
Right. So again, that was kind of one of these things that we had. But no, the water was before. When I'm in prison, everything's going well. I got a phone call one night. I was sitting there. No, I didn't get a phone call. I made a phone call, and I was sitting there talking with Jackie, and she says, "You know what, Chad?" She says, "Man, this is just too hard for me. I can't do this anymore." Right, and you always want that dear John letter. You don't want that letter,
Right.
And like I said, that's my how. That's my why. That was my why. My reason for everything. But now you're in a situation where you're not going to feel weak. You can't feel vulnerable, right? And so at that point in time, I said either with Jackie or without Jackie, I'm doing this for me. I'm doing this for me, And again, like I said, I had Robbie there. He's one of the toughest guys I met mentally. We'll be fine. He goes, shit, you get out in 3 years. He goes, I got another 17 to do after you leave. Right. So everything was put in perspective, and I think that's the biggest thing about anything that's trying to make an overcome something, adversity, whatever it is. I think it's all about perspective, and when I did not have the victim mentality, I had a bright future.
Yeah.
Right. Because I knew I could make whatever I wanted to. I've done this before. I've overcame things, living on the streets, living in a tent trailer, smoking drugs, doing drugs, selling drugs. I've overcome things because, again, I've had a better perspective of what I want to do. I'm going to get out of something. I'm going to get into something else.
Do you remember the moment, or was there a moment where that switched from maybe we'll call it a victim mentality, but maybe it wasn't really victim at that point, or you didn't realize it, but to a point where you're like, I'm going to control my own destiny. I'm not going to be a victim. I feel like, and I've never been incarcerated, so I don't, I'm projecting a perception, right?
Yep.
But being behind bars, I can only imagine that there's some dissolution with regards to, loneliness and that sort of thing.
There is, success comes from having people. You have to have a support system, And thankfully, I had a couple of good friends, and that's what you need. Don't need a bunch. There's about 5 of them that you can count on one hand, And again, I have my family. My family's always been behind me. My mother, my father, my sister. I've got a great family on that side. Everybody always asks, "How's your childhood?" My childhood was great. Childhood is great. So that's not an issue. There's no trauma, anything passed through there. And a lot of times I talk to people, they always ask about trauma, and I don't have any trauma. The only trauma was all the stuff that I put myself through.
Yeah.
But again, that wasn't trauma for me. That was fun. It was entertainment.
Yeah.
So it was never anything bad. What really got me though is I tell everybody you have to be in prison for 2 years to make a change. And you might have to be on the streets for 2 years by yourself too to make a change.
Yeah.
Because anything below that, I saw people with a victim mentality. Oh man, fuck this! This happened to me. Oh, I got busted, or oh, I was framed, or I saw that happen. I've seen people that were even just, hey, I've got to be here for a year and then I get to leave.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of times they came back before I left even.
Oh, wow.
So that recidivism rate, 67%, 62%. If you don't, my opinion, and this is what I've told everybody, but you have to be in there for about 24 months. You have to suffer.
Yeah.
You have to suffer. Silence is where you grow. I talk about the night. That's when the trees grow. You have to have time to think about things. And with the yard that we had a baseball field sit on the very back. We had old block. I was in Safford, so it was in Graham County. So I looked at the dark skies. There's nothing out there. And I remember I was sitting on the block stadium, and it was over there by the softball field. And I remember looking just out into the wild. Over the fences, barbed wire fences, everything else, moon, and there's creatures out there that are surviving. It's a harsh life out there. We had tarantulas. I'd never seen a tarantula in Arizona until I was in Safford. Yeah. It looked like a whole parking lot moving. It was like tarantulas.
Oh, no kidding.
They were coming.
Oh, that's crazy.
But you think about things that are out there, the snakes, the animals, all that, and again, like I said, snakes, but in harsh conditions, things still survive. And that's where I was at. I was in a harsh condition. So I sat there on that rock. I was thinking about Jackie. I was thinking about everything else. But then again, this is a time when she said, I can't do this. It's hard for me to come up there. Now, mind you, you got 3 kids. She got 3 kids, right? Single mother.
Oh, wow.
And I'm
Are those her kids?
They're all her kids. They're her kids. Yeah, they're her kids. Yeah. So, but they're I was in a relationship.
Yeah.
So she would bring them up there. Little man, my little one, who now obviously he's adopted, he's taking my last name and everything else. She said he cries every time we leave.
That's
it's so hard to have this kid do that. She said, I can't do this no more. She said, I know you put yourself there. I didn't.
Yeah.
Right. And I said, perfect. That's all I need to know. Okay. If it's meant to be when I get out and everything's good, then hey, let's get together.
Yeah.
Right? So I spent about the last year, a little bit under a year of change, not having Jackie.
Yeah.
Not even thinking about Jackie. Well, it's not that I didn't think about her. I thought about her all the time.
Tried to keep her in the back.
But I had to stay busy to do my thing.
What was your motivation, like daily? in that time frame? I mean, was it just, hey, I'm just going to get through this and
I want to stay as busy as possible because when all you have is time, you don't know how slow time is. Right? People sit there, they mark the calendar. Some people, there's different things that they do inside, but there are a lot of people. And the first thing when I got in there, somebody says, do not worry about time. I remember the first time when I had self-surrender, I remember the first hour when I was locked up. I self-surrendered. They take me down to CCA in Florence, right? So I was down in Florence. I'm sitting there. I prepared for the cold, harsh weather, that's inside. It's cold. I got my little, outfit I had to change into. I got my sleeping bag or my blanket. I'm sitting there and I close my eyes and I look up and I go, okay, it's been 1 hour of 30 months.
wow.
It's been 2 hours of 30 months, And finally I was able to fall asleep a little bit. Next thing you know, I wake up to somebody hitting me. It was some deranged druggie that they brought in off the streets flipping out, Now, mind you, I'm sober in this position,
Yeah.
right? Because I self-surrendered. I'm like, this is not where I need to be. This is not what it is for me. But again, I put myself there, right? I put myself. So I'm going to get through this. So get to the prison. The prison was, the best of it all. I had some hiccups while I was there, obviously with Jackie leaving. My last DUI that I got, I knew I was going to get some time also because I was on a restricted driver's license for the last one. So now it was a felony.
Okay.
But I couldn't get sentenced in the state before I got sentenced in the federal because now I would have been a felon with a prior conviction. So I had to juggle them. And I juggled it so good, and this is where I was always get away with things, okay? I juggled it so good. I got sentenced in Hawaii, right, on Wednesday. I flew out Wednesday night, and I got sentenced Thursday morning in Maricopa County, right? And so they didn't get into the system yet. And I already had it to where they could serve. I had to do 8 months concurrent. They ran it with my Fed time. But again, that saved me a little bit of time. So I went straight from the airport right to court. Right? Again, that's pushing the buttons, which is what my life was, right? That's which my life, and that was normal to me, right? But that was a hard life. I tell people right now, doing what's right and doing what's easy is so much better, right? Living that life is so hard, and it really is.
I remember, as a child, I'll guess. I just remember my dad. My dad was a teacher. And the stuff he says to you is probably your dad too.
Oh, you hear it all the time.
The record runs through the head.
Yep.
But I can just remember, as a kid, him saying, "Look, there's gonna be times you're gonna get in trouble for telling the truth, but it's so much easier to just tell the truth than make up a lie and have to remember what that lie is, and then make up a lie to make up that lie, and whatever." And I can just imagine not only the mental calisthenics, but just the stress of
looking over your shoulder every day.
Yeah.
Oh. Not knowing it having warrants, or even having drugs in the car. People ask about stress too, having your wife drop you off or your girlfriend drop you off. This is post 9/11. So when I was in Hawaii, I had board shorts on, stacks of cash in them, walking through the metal detector.
Oh, geez.
Right? My partner that was with me, that did it early, he had a nickel in the pocket, and he walked through and the beep went off, but he didn't see the nickel. He went through about 2 times. Finally, he found it, and they said, okay, you're free to go. So... those are stressful situations. Those are stressful situations. So again, everything's relative. Everything's relative.
For sure.
Uh-huh.
So you get out.
So I get out.
What happens after that? I mean,
first day out.
Yeah.
I get out. I was supposed to get released to Jackie, right? But obviously we don't know. Future's unknown. So my mom and dad picked me up. Okay. I got 6 hours to get to the halfway house back down here in Phoenix. You don't go home from prison.
Okay.
Right? You go to a halfway house.
Okay.
So you have to stay there. It's, again, halfway between home and prison. You don't want to be there. You don't want to be there because you're there with a lot of knuckleheads still, right? Some people don't have a job. Some people have a job. Some people don't want to go get a job. I've seen a lot of people, like my roommate, for instance. You're only supposed to be there very temporarily until you go home, but he didn't have a home, so he stayed there.
It's just supposed to be like a reintroduction to society.
It's a reintroduction to society. They take 40% of your paychecks. Right, so you have to have a job because you have to pay to be in there. Gotcha. They will. Now, the federal government, again, the biggest thing about being through the system, too, I learned a lot about the federal government. A lot about the federal government. We got 20 beds in there. I'm going to let 10 people go home. They still got to pay, though. Now, I can put 10 more people in that bed. I'll let them go, and I'll put 10 more people in that bed. So you can have as many people in that bed paying, but there's really only one person because everybody else you let go home. It's a money-making thing.
Oh, my God.
It's a money-making thing, right? And again, they take portion of your check. So I knew I had to go to the halfway house. So my parents picked me up. Where do you want to go? And I said, I want to go to the Dirty Drummer. I want to go see Jackie. Right? They're like, we just got out. I'm like, I understand, right? I stopped and got a Mountain Dew. We went and drove up to the Dirty Drummer, opened up the door, dark inside, obviously bar setting. I see her back was turned. She was at the grill cooking, right? I just kind of sat there by the cash register at the bar. She turned around. We met eyes. We made eye contact. Biggest smile on her face and biggest smile on my face, right?
That's awesome.
Came around and gave me a big hug. And she said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I told you I had to come see you." Right? She said, what's the deal? What's the deal? I said, well, I got to go to a halfway house. I got to go there. Where's this at? It's on 24th Street in Roosevelt, right? So here I am. Not only was I in the hood, but now when you got to go back, they put you back into the hood, right?
It's crazy.
Again, I got to get out of this environment.
Yeah.
I got to get out of this environment. So, and again, I've been, a lot of inmates are knuckleheads. There's a lot of knuckleheads, but there's also a lot of good guys. Going here, I left my good guys. My buddy Robbie said, Chad, you're the only guy I've ever seen cry leaving prison. Right? I don't like goodbyes. Right?
Yeah.
No matter what, I don't like goodbyes. But leaving prison was different because it's not because I was leaving prison. It was because I was leaving my buddy behind. Right, and that's the heart, that's the care that I have. Even for everybody around the streets, I have a big heart, right?
Yeah.
The Jackie, the kids. I want to help people. And that's really what it is. I'm going to go above and beyond to help people. So that night, I'm at the halfway house. Jackie gets off work. She brings me a cell phone. Right, we sit there, we bullshit for the night. Shows me how to use a phone and whatnot. And we started talking. We started rekindling our relationship. Right, I got a job at Rehab Plus. It was my company that I was working with before. Because again, I was between Water, Rehab Plus, going around. I've worked for them before. They knew I was coming out, and they said, you got a job when you come out. So the biggest thing too that helped me is being a convicted felon, being somebody released from prison. I had a job on day one. I had a job.
Great, yeah.
I didn't have a driver's license. Remember, I got 6 DUIs.
Yeah.
So I had to be humble. I walked out of the halfway house, got on the bus stop on 24th Street in Roosevelt. I took it to Thomas.
A lovely neighborhood.
Yep. Then I had to go to 44th Street or 42nd Street in Thomas because that's where our place was at. So I took the public transportation for the first time.
Wow.
Right? Humble. I don't give a shit. It's a lot better than being in prison.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'll make the best of it. So those are the things that you're going to have to do. You're going to have to humble yourself.
Yeah.
And I've already been there before. We came out here in a tent trailer. Right? I just didn't know that time it was teaching me a lesson.
Yeah.
Right? And now as I look back on it, as a kid, you don't understand those things. But it taught you about survival. It did. It taught you about survival. So, went to work. And the best thing is convicted felons have a hard time getting a job. They really do.
Yeah.
But I was fortunate enough. My buddies, they always gave me a chance, and they welcomed me back with open arms. Everything was going good. Right? Got a job. I got Jackie back in my life. I got released to my family after about 6 weeks at the halfway house. Okay. I was able to go home. I think I was supposed to be there for 12. I got halfway through that time, and they let me go. Good thing, though, I had a disrespectful roommate that was in there with me. He didn't, like I said, he didn't want to go home. And it was one of those things that in prison you learn a lot about respect, and you have a lot of code of conduct. When you come back out, it's amazing how they lose that real quick. Right? Don't be on the phone after 10 o'clock. Don't play music. Or if you have music, put your headphones on. Here we are in a two bed in one room. He's playing music all night long and do this. And it was to the thing where it's like I'm almost ready to go back, and I'll do the rest of my time in there because I don't have to deal with jackasses like this, But again, at the same time, it's like you don't want to go back there. You don't want to go back there. So the biggest thing I talk to people too is that you have to have employment. You have to have employment. Biggest thing of recovery is you have to have employment.
Yeah. What motivated you to get to the point where you wanted to start your own business?
I was a changed man when I walked out. I had a different view of life. I had a different view of myself, and I have a different view of my future. I worked for somebody. I helped these guys build their business. We were a good small group. When I was working there, that's when Eddie came around and Eddie broke his back. So I was working with Eddie. Phil Grigg was a sheriff's posse member that was out here. He got shot point blank. He was saving a Phoenix police officer. It was on New Year's Eve night. Robbery went bad. They ended up shooting the police officer. He was 8 months in the ICU with stomach blown out and everything else. Ended up making it, survived. I got Phil after he got out of the hospital. I got to work with Phil. And then I had a guy, Anthony Ramos, that was on fire. He was offloading an oil tanker over by Sky Harbor Airport. A fire happened. He was on fire for about 2.5 minutes, burned about 62% of his body. Wow. So these were 3 cases that were at Rehab Plus, right? And I was working with these guys. And it was
you were working at Rehab Plus?
Yeah, Rehab Plus. Yeah, that's the company I was at. Yeah. And working with these 3 guys, especially Eddie, I brought Eddie in. It was the BMX stuff. We kind of talked about that whole circle of what kind of got it going. And seeing Eddie take that first step, or try to take that first step, was like me walking out of prison, And my methodologies won in a row. I don't believe in alcoholics. I don't believe in drug addicts. I don't believe in the word addiction at all. They put me in classes. They put a label on me. They said I was alcoholic just because I got 6 DUIs. I said, no, I like to have fun. They said you're a drug addict, because of all the drugs and whatever. No. I stopped doing all that stuff cold turkey. right? When I got out, I had to do one more counseling class. And this guy he even kind of reassured me. He says, you're never going to hear me say the word addict in here. He goes, you're not a gambling addict. You're not a sex addict. He says, you guys make bad choices. He says, that's it. He says, when you stop making those choices, if you don't want a haircut, don't go to the barber shop. Yeah. And I'm like, man, hold on. Somebody put a label on me from before. Now you're telling me I make bad choices? I'm like, this is fucking easy.
Yeah.
Right? Chapter 2 of my book is yes or no. It's choices.
Make a choice.
Better
choice.
It's easy. I don't know anybody that's addicted to running in front of cars.
Yeah, well.
I don't know anybody that's addicted to putting their hand on a hot stove.
Yeah.
Right? They might have done it once, but they choose not to do it again.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what I did. I chose not to do it again. So through my experience, I see a lot of people relapse. Right? And with relapse, I contributed to, there's only 12 steps in a program. They fall off on step 13. I got 365 steps in my recovery every day. Every day.
Make a choice.
One in a row. Right?
Yeah.
It's every day. And that's how it is for walking, for Eddie. It's one in a row, And anybody that has to come back from anything, it's one in a row. You have to start by doing it once. And if you can do it once, you can do it every time.
Yeah.
So my methodology is one in a row. I went to work the first day.
If you could go back in time at any point in your life and give yourself advice, would you? And what age is that? And what advice would you give yourself?
It's hard because I've explored so much stuff. I've done stuff that people should not do. I really have. But at the same time, though, is that it's broadened my horizon. I can help anybody on different levels because I can relate to anybody. When I was writing my book, they said, Chad, who do you want to write this book for? I said, man, I want to write this book for people overcoming from fire, from drug addiction, from being a convicted felon. I was somebody that was paralyzed, had a back injury. And I gave all these reasons why, and these people who I wanted to write this book for. And they looked at me and they said, Chad, you're not going to sell a book. And I said, what do you mean? She said, when you write a book for everybody, you sell it to nobody.
Oh, wow.
When you write a book for one person, everybody will buy it. Because we all have that one thing in us.
Yeah.
People just don't want to tell it what it is. They hold it in, right? And that goes back to your self-identity.
Yeah.
And self-identity is my chapter 1. That's where it starts off. The greatest thing is to know thyself, And I don't think I really knew myself.
Yeah.
I knew who I wanted to be, but I had different things in the way, like I was trying, curiosity, like I said, learning, doing the drug game, doing the drug using game, being a convicted felon, going to prison. Those are things those are experiences for me. They really weren't who I was or who I am, until I got out and I started helping people again. And then I had a better purpose for it all because, again, when I was rehabilitating Eddie and Anthony and Phil, they didn't know it, but they were rehabilitating me.
Yeah.
Right? The better they got, the better I got. And so I started working with Eddie. We had a couple of different scenarios. He had his hip replaced. I went back to Mitch, the guy that I was working with, and I said, hey, because Eddie paid me out of his foundation. It was a cash deal. I didn't take insurances because I'm not a therapist. They were the therapy group. So I said, hey, Mitch, Eddie's going to have his hip done, and I'll put him back in the schedule for therapy. You guys can work on him. And Mitch said, Chad, you know more about this shit than I do. He says, why don't you just keep working with him? I'll just build the insurance stuff.
Oh, wow.
So I thought, okay, cool. Very optimistic. I got a bright future in front of me. And I don't like negativity. I don't like pessimistic people. I've worked around it. There's old school thoughts. My boy Warren, man, he's old school as can be. But he started even getting a little negative at times, and it started wearing on me. I went home and Jackie, she said, honey, this isn't you. This isn't you. I said, well, yeah, I know, but I got to do something, She says, well, you got to figure out something that's going to continue to make you happy, So I went to a job interview with Dunn. It's a medical advice. I love to do medical sales, A lot of money can be made there. I love the medical community. I'll work my ass off. I love everything about it. I did about 4 interviews. I had my last one. They said, man, that's perfect. I would do a background check. Boom. Called me up the next day. Can't hire you.
Yeah.
Right? So that's another slap on my face. So now my hand's restricted, And I felt like it's out of my control. My success and my future is out of my control. I was working with my buddies, small business, finances. I got a family now. I got 3 kids. Right? My wife, she's been kicking ass. She's a bartender, right? I want to make life for her better.
Yeah.
I got to provide. I'm a man. I want to provide. And I couldn't provide on what they were paying me and what I was making. I couldn't do it. That's why I tried to look for other things. So I got into those, and then I got turned down for obviously my record and my background. So now what happens is that there's only one thing they can do is you got to take it in your own hands.
Yeah.
So they said, why don't you open up your own place? Man, that's a big jump. They said, you've done a lot of jumps before.
Yeah.
And you've made them. And I said, I'm not worried about it. I'll do it. I just got to have the money. And so like I talked about, I went to an angel investor. I went around, and then finally my dad, he says, you know what, I'll back you. Right? I'll back you. So the belief, they've always been there to believe. I've got a great backing. When I opened up Move in 2017, I said, it's for the people. It's for the people. Because if the people come, then I'm going to be fine. Yeah. It's not for me. It's not for me. It's for them. This book's not for me. And my wife, she always tells me, she says, you need to start taking credit for you. You don't take credit for you.
Yeah.
Because that's not me. We talk about gratitude, right? And that's what I've been talking about every way this week is it is gratitude. I'm very thankful for everything that I have and everything else. But is gratitude a feeling or is gratitude an action? Or is it both?
That is a great question. It's funny. I've never thought about that. I have a little medallion that hangs in my car. It says gratitude on it, and it's been there. I found it on the ground right after I got divorced, like 14, 15 years ago. I mean, I was literally like divorced, bankrupt, foreclosure. Kids moved to Minnesota with my ex.
Yep.
I was done.
Yeah.
And I found this medallion, and I don't know what it was, but it spoke to me.
Yeah.
But that's interesting. Never thought about it as, is it an action?
Yeah. And so most people think gratitude, they're thankful for things.
Yeah.
I'm very thankful for things. And so that's a feeling. That is a feeling. But for me, I look at gratitude as an action because I'm thankful for everybody else that's given me the chance.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And so when you speak about it, and I talk to people about gratitude as a feeling does not necessarily mean that it's a bad thing. But the world that we have nowadays, does gratitude lead to entitlement?
I think it can.
Yeah, it can.
I think it definitely can.
It can. And so that's for me. I don't want to feel entitled. I never want to feel entitled.
Yeah.
Right. Because I'm not entitled. My mom and dad, I looked at that. I says, you guys helped me out. You guys helped me out. And she said, but we didn't ever want to see our kid in trouble. That's why we bailed your ass out.
Yeah.
They tried to put me in jail a lot of times. I stole my dad's gun and sold it. Not supposed to do that, by the way. That's another felony. Thankfully,
Didn't get caught on that one.
$20
For his gun?
for his gun that was his childhood rifle that he went hunting with. Right? To this day, I still feel so bad. That's one of the old priceless artifacts that he could have, and I sold it for a 20 piece of crack.
Wow.
Right? And they knew that. They talked to the cops. They knew everything about it. But the cops said he's 18 years old, over 18.
Yeah.
He has to turn himself in, or we can arrest him. They didn't want to arrest me.
Wow.
Right? They were trying to help me. Right? So, the entitled stuff, and again, there might have been a little bit, but they're very thankful for my parents because they helped get me out of situations. Nowadays, with my kids, it's like, if you get in trouble, you're on your own. You're on your own. We are not doing this, and we've done that. My kids have been in trouble.
And I think today, all too often, kids are bailed out before. I mean, my dad was a teacher, 45 years. My dad used to always say to me, if I can't control you, what's everybody else going to think of me being responsible for their kids? But I just think, as a kid, and I've got you by a couple of years, but growing up in the 70s, I mean, it was hard-handed. It's like you yes sir, yes ma'am, or you're getting smacked.
I talked back to my mom one time.
Yeah, I remember the one time I talked back to my mom when my dad was in the room.
Yeah,
that was not good. But those are the things where it's like, I think today, like, I've watched my dad over the years having to deal with these kids come through school where the kid is the problem. And before, I mean, it's the, hey, go out in the hallway. And then there's a complaint to the school district that my dad's singling out these kids in class. And it's like, okay, your kid wouldn't be singled out in class if he wasn't being a pain in the ass, And I'd tell my son, he'd come home, he'd be in trouble or whatever. I'd say, Jake, I tell you, I can guarantee you your teacher didn't wake up this morning and think, how can I make Jake's day a total disaster? It's like, so you're doing something. You may not want to admit it. You may not want to take responsibility for it, but you're doing something.
And the parents have to let the teachers do that.
Yeah.
They have to let the teacher know. I remember with my little one, he was crazy. He had a contract his first his first grade year, second grade year, he was on a contract. And so the teacher would always call us and like, hey, he's not sitting down or whatever. I'm like, we don't call you when he's acting up at home, right? You have our permission. Do what you have to do, you know. But most parents aren't going to do that. They're like, okay, well, be smart or be safe, But they just, and that's the softness. But again, I always talk about. There's always saying, the hard times create weak men. Weak men create tough times. The whole thing goes around. And it is. It's a generation. I think right now the generation that we're going to be skipping, I think that's when the toughness is going to come back around again.
I think it looks like it is for sure.
I got a little grandson. He's 4 months old. Right.
Oh.
I got another one on the way too. And my youngest son. He just told me him and his wife they're expecting. So
nice.
I got another one. But my little one, he's with us. He's 4 months old. And I told him, I said he's going to be the change of all the generations of it all.
That's awesome. My daughter just had my first grandson, so
It's the best.
Yeah,
the best.
He's 2 months old now. So
We're in the same boat. Yeah.
So before we jump into Move and talk about the book and things like that, one more question that I do have that I wanted to ask you was, in this current, we'll call it chapter, season of your life, after you've gotten out, has there been any and I'm going to call them failures because I just don't really have a better word for it. Have there been any failures that have just kicked you in the teeth where you could have folded up shop and said, okay, I'm done?
Yeah, I got a good one. So, like I said, everything goes around my relationship, right? And that's one of the things. Even with this book, it's just not even about overcoming certain things, but there's a lot of relationship stuff in there. With these athletes, we're always quick to do the transfer portal nowadays. Obviously, we talk about the divorces and stuff that people are quick to leave, whether it be the husband and wife or whatever. You have to work through things. My parents have still been married; they've been together forever. Now, obviously, there's going to be bad times, there's going to be good times, but that's old school stuff right there. When I met Jackie, I got out, was at the halfway house, went to my parents' house. I got released. I was able to get to Jackie to stay with her. Her and her roommate had a house. I moved in with them, trying to do everything I can do, contribute, making a little bit of money, just coming back. But it wasn't enough. And I'm trying hard. I'm trying real hard to come back, because I gotta make up for lost time. Now I know you can't ever do that though. You can't do that. Everyone tries to do stuff, whether you're a dad or you're a mom and you're away from your kids, or whatever, you cannot make up for lost time. You got to make it the best of what it was. And so I think that was causing a lot of pressure with just her and with She says, you've changed. Well, of course I've changed. I just went through 30 months of prison. For me, I thought it was a good thing, but for her, it wasn't, right? There was stuff with my family, because her having kids, my parents said, hey, well, don't you want to have your own kids? That's not even a thought of me right now. I'm just worried about having me and a family, first of all, right? And so we had some things that we had to
say, I'm having a hard time just being responsible for myself, obviously.
And I said, maybe I don't even deserve kids, because the time frame when I was supposed to have these kids, I was out fucking around doing everything else, So I was sitting there, and she was out with her friends one night, and I was out with my friends, and curiosity, it's in my book. I contacted one of my ex-girlfriends, right, just to let her know how good I'm doing.
Yeah.
That didn't sit well over. Jackie said, get the hell out.
Yeah.
I'm done. I'm done. I go back to my parents' house. I could have folded, which that was probably the hardest thing in my life.
Yeah.
That was probably the hardest thing, because I was so close to what I wanted. Even when I was there, she said, no, I don't want to be with you. And, and she didn't say I don't want to be with you as a bad thing. She just said, I got to continue to live.
Yeah.
So it was more of my decision to not have any contact, because I didn't want to think about that. But this was the thing. And I got mad at her because she was out with some friends, and I seen something, a text message on her phone. It was a guy that was just a friend of hers that said, hey, good night, sunshine, or something like that. And it blew up into a big thing, But again, that's where the jealousy stuff comes in. I was out. It was me. I was gone for 3 years. I don't know what she's doing, and I don't know, and I want to make the best of that. That was rough.
Yeah.
I had to go back in. I took all my shit. I moved it out of her house. As a matter of fact, she made me move all the shit back out of the house. I went back in with my parents, and I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to be there. I knew what I wanted in life. I wanted Jackie. I wanted my family.
Yeah.
So I had to do everything that I had to do. And it was just, thankfully, our daughter Jade, she said, Mom, is Chad going to come over for like my 7th birthday or 9th birthday? I can't remember what it was. And I get a text message, and it says, Jade wants to know if you're going to come over for a birthday party. I was so happy, so happy. I said, do you want me to come over, or is that okay if I do come over? And it was okay. I did end up going over there. I saw the kids, which I tried to smooth, do everything I could do, but not being too forceful, Next thing you know, we started talking again, right? And just knowing what I want, and it was her. It was really her. And so I moved back in. It was stressful. She had to take me every morning to work because I didn't have a driver's license. Then she had to drop me off at 7. She had to turn all the way, fly back to Mesa, drop the kids off at school. Now we had 2 kids at 2 different schools because one was in Gilbert. So, she had to go to work and then pick up from the baby. I mean, it was a lot of stuff, But strong as she is, she's just a strong woman. So I knew I was going to be fine in life. Right? We got married, right? She wanted to be married. We got married in Coronado on the beach, private thing, If you don't know anything about it, Coronado, you can get married at the Dell.
Okay.
There's a cul-de-sac right next to it, but the beach right there is public. It cost us nothing.
Oh, no kidding.
I got the Dell in the back. It's going to cost you $10,000-$20,000,
Yeah.
$30 if you get married over there. I did in the cul-de-sac right next door. I got the red roof in the back. It was a beautiful
that's
drop
awesome.
for free. So we do things on a frugal, we're low budget. That's all. We're low budget. Yeah. She was my force behind everything, right? When I was starting getting down, she said, you got to make a change, We got to go to Move. We got to open a Move. So working with Eddie, I was driving down. I said, I'm going to open a place called Move. Right? He said, Move. I go, yeah, where's this at? It's going to be over in Tempe, somewhere Chandler, somewhere close to my house, right? Somewhere I can do it all. So we went out looking for places. Jackie's with me. We found a building on Arizona Avenue in Elliott, right? Industrial, which is great because I got industrial prices for everything, not in the storefront. It was a tiny place. We were going to have to make it and bust it all out and do some stuff, but I had a vision. Just like when I got out of prison, I had a vision. right? One of my biggest things is you have to have a plan. My probation that I was on for 3 years or 5 years, it's not a probation. I don't look at it as probation. I look at it as a 3 or 5 year goal. Right. When I was when I was in trouble, still doing stupid shit, I looked at it as probation, and I violated every time because I don't need somebody to tell me what to do.
Yeah.
But when I got out and I saw my perspective changed, and I saw this plan, a 3 year, 5 year plan that she had, I started doing everything that she asked. And next thing you know, it was taking me to who I wanted to be. You know, and it wasn't a bad thing. Like I said, people look at I got to go do probation. Probation's a goal to help you get to where you want to go. You know, and so that was a great feeling for me. You know, I completed it. I got off early, both of them all. Everything was going good. Opened up Move. Jackie's bartending to pay for everything again, right? So I got a certain amount of money, but most of that went into our build out.
Now, when you started Move,
Yep.
was it the acronym?
No.
At that point?
No, Move is just Move. Everyone always says, how did you come up with Move? And to be honest with you, I don't know. I knew it was with Eddie somehow because Eddie, the logo is a handicapped guy.
Yeah, and it's an awesome logo.
Yeah, so it's a handicapped guy, but it's also an athlete in motion. So I wanted to keep it basic, and so I had two versions. I had one just a regular Move, and then I had one with the old wheelchair in it.
Oh, okay.
So then our marketing guy back in the day, he branded it, and we got this one out, which is great. It's been awesome. I get compliments on it all the time, and it sticks out. So I was sitting there one day. The only thing that I lost, I had a guy that was at my wedding during COVID and all this stuff happened. I used to go to their house. His wife was a bigwig with Estee Lauder, and he was a bigwig with Honeywell. I think JD to this day, I think he's 91 right now. And as I was driving to their house to go train him one afternoon, I was driving down the street and I started thinking like, man, you know what? It's got to be something with your mind, something with your mind. I mean, just Chad, I'm proud of what you've done, and again, I do a lot of self-talk. A lot of quiet time where I can just hear myself. That's the best thing. Biggest thing I tell people is you have to have silence, right? If you want to grow, you have to have silence. We live in a world of confusion and noise and everything else, and you have to ignore the noise.
Yeah.
In prison, I had no noise at times. It was very quiet, like you said, very desolate at times, lonely. But the loneliness is, Jackie says you always talk to yourself. Hell yeah, because I'm never lonely no more, right? I always got somebody to talk to. But when I was driving to the house, I was driving that road, and I thought, you know what? Mind over virtual everything, or virtually everything, right? And so I did. I said, that's what I'm going to have. And so I got a buddy. When we opened up, I have it painted right as soon as you walk in our front doors. It says mind over virtual everything. And so it is an acronym now, also the title of my book, but it all goes based upon Move, and Move is medicine.
Yeah.
Move is medicine,
Yeah.
and so that's where we got it from.
So did you open Move as a rehabilitation? Did you open Move as a sports therapy? What was the kind of the motivation behind opening it? Obviously, you were working with people, but where'd you go?
Yeah, I mentioned Uber. Right? Uber is kind of a cool thing. Everybody does now on Lyft and every day. Don't let nobody go to your house that you don't know. Don't get in a car with a stranger. Right? First two things that we were taught in the 70s and 80s. Right? Now everybody gets in a car with a stranger and they have them come to their house.
Right.
Like, are you kidding me?
All the time.
Physical therapy is kind of the same way. Right? I've worked for it for a long time. I've seen what the insurance does. I've seen the reimbursements go down. I've seen the care go down. Right? People I will only do this because this is what insurance is paying for.
Yeah.
Working with Eddie, didn't have insurance. I wasn't strapped by nothing. I will give you every ounce of energy that I have to get you to be better. So when I opened up Move, it was a performance. I always say just a Move Human Performance Center.
Okay.
Right? So it's not sports. It's not recovery. It's not therapy. I'm not a physical therapist, exercise science guy. I had all my certifications through the National Academy of Sports Medicine, so I have certifications and whatnot. My behavioral change certification, always through the National Academy of Sports Medicine. So I opened up Move, and I let everybody know that I was the Uber to physical therapy. If you want to get to where you want to be, come see me.
Yeah.
But I can only take cash. I'm not a physical therapist.
Yeah.
Right? I don't have a license. I have certifications.
Yeah.
And everybody said, I want to see results. I want to get there now instead of waiting for the cab to come.
Yeah.
I don't need an $80 cab ride. I'll pay you $25 to get there. Yeah. So I changed the whole landscape of it all, right? I was a non-provider owner. I didn't have therapy at that time. I couldn't afford a therapist. That's when I kicked myself in the ass for not going to PT school and doing everything. I had to pay $80,000 right off the bat to bring in a therapy. I didn't have that money.
Yeah.
I didn't have it. So I was treating injuries and I was training people. Jackie was doing my administration stuff, and then she was leaving and going to bartending or doing the Phoenix Open, a special event bartending, doing whatever she can do because I lost money. My salary. As soon as I told my guys I was done, I lost my money. Now we're back to one income.
Yeah.
My first day, I made $75 at Move. I remember what my dad said, are you ready to lose your house?
Yeah.
Are you ready? Did we make the right decision?
Record's playing pretty loud at that
Yes.
point.
Yep. All I knew was going to be hard work,
Yeah.
And so I started working on people. I started doing things. So again, I was doing everything. I was training people. I was doing some injury stuff, whatever I could do, right?
Yeah.
I went door to door marketing with, the old guerrilla walk. I went to the islands over there and I had all my flyers. I went guerrilla marketing. I was doing marketing as well.
Yeah.
Anything I could do to open it up.
So 2017, you said you opened.
Yep.
Have you changed any of the structure, the modalities, the services offered since you've opened?
Yeah, so, obviously I'm a statistics guy. I don't like them, right? 62% of people go to prison, right? Perfect. Most small business owners don't survive 3 years in business, right? We made that.
Yep.
2020, COVID hit.
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah.
Right? Now, just before that happened, I hired a physical therapist.
Oh.
So now I'm an essential business.
Yep. Oh, nice.
I'm essential business. I got to stay open.
Yeah.
Everyone says I had a lucky horseshoe in my ass. Right? I think I got a couple of them. Right? I think
them?
I had a couple
Yeah.
of them. Right.
You need to have one of those surgically removed.
Right. So now we had therapy. Okay. At this moment too, my wife is all in with me. Right, because I was getting busy. She was doing the training actually, right? She was doing the training. We brought Crystal on. It was a therapist that was with us, and we gave her a lucrative deal because I needed help. Right? I didn't know it, but even financially, we were falling. We were falling. Right? Credit cards. I don't do the finances. My wife does all that stuff. Yep. Everything's delegated. Everything else. She came to me one day. She said, "Chad, we got to sell our house." I said, "What?" We just got done remodeling it in Gilbert.
Oh, wow.
She said, "We have to sell our house. We got $50,000 in credit card debt." I'm like, "You got to be kidding me." She said, "No, I mean, with our both income now that we're here, and I don't have, there's no more means of all that stuff." That record was real loud.
I'm sure.
Right? And I'm thinking, like, what are we going to do? She goes, "I already talked to your parents. They had a rental, right? And it was over in Chandler. And they said, well, they'll give it to us for a pretty good price so we could rent it." I went over there and looked at this house. I said, "There's no fucking way I'm moving in here." Because we just got done remodeling our house. Right?
So you got a beautiful house.
I had a beautiful shower, the whole thing. And I went to this house, and this was...
It's a kick in the teeth.
It was bad, right? It was bad. But I've been there before. Right?
It can either be a weight or it can be motivation.
Yes. Yeah. And again,
There's your choice.
I understand what I was getting into.
Yeah. Yeah.
I told my dad that I was busy too, and we were busy. And he says, "Sounds like you bought yourself a job." I said, "Well, my dad," he says, "When you have a company, you don't have to be there and it still makes money." He said, "But you and your wife work there, you guys got a job." And at that point in time, I said, "Fuck you." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Don't tell me that shit. So that's also my motivation.
Yeah.
That's also my motivation.
Scale to the point where it can run itself.
Yes.
You go on vacation.
Yeah, and so we brought in Crystal. We had therapy going down. Essential part of the 2020 COVID stuff, right? I was out marketing, doing things when COVID came around. I saw fear in prison when we had lockdowns. I've been through lockdowns before. The society hasn't been through a lockdown, never.
Yeah.
Okay, I've been through lockdowns before. It's not that bad.
Yeah.
It's not that bad. It's going to pass, right? So when everybody else got afraid and they got scared and they had fear, we rose above. Right?
Gotcha.
Keep doing what you got to do. We're here for the community.
Yeah.
Right? We're here for the community. So little did I know that when every other college around the country shut down and they had scholastic athletes that were there with an ACL, a shoulder, or whatever, that had to continue care, they would send them to us. So in 2021 was our biggest year. I had people from Maryland come over, had people from Oregon. We had people from all over the universities came into Arizona because they heard MOVE was open.
That's
But
awesome.
at this time, nobody still knew I was a convicted felon.
Yeah.
Right? Every day was going as planned.
And it probably doesn't matter.
And it doesn't. No, and it didn't matter. That was my whole thing. It didn't matter because I didn't let nobody knew it. This is my character. This is who I am. Again, don't let your past determine who you are. Right? Don't judge a book by its cover.
Right.
I had no tattoos when I was in prison. I got tattoos all over my whole upper body right now.
Yeah.
Right. And the reason why I got those is because they tell a story.
Yeah.
Right. Again, overcome things. Overcome things.
Yeah. How do you? I mean, that's a great point. How do you navigate that conversation with somebody if it's important? Because obviously in society we like to label people and we like to make assumptions and we like to broad brush stereotypes, right? So how do you navigate that in your business and in life with your past?
Yeah, it was tough. Like I said before, I didn't want people to know because I don't want people to judge. We're in a very judging society right now. But at the same time, we're in a very accepting society where people are allowed second chances or people do give second chances. It just depends on who your clientele is.
Yeah.
It really does. And it depends on really who you are as well. I give everybody everything I have. I have some good connections. I've made a lot of them over the years. I've been doing physical therapy, sports performance for 30 years. So I have a lot of good connections. I've worked with a lot of NFL guys in the past. I've worked with a lot of NBA players, a lot of professional, the Arizona's top athletes. I've worked with them even when I was with Rehab Plus. And then when I was at MOVE, we started started getting them. I was working with Arizona Compass Prep, and they were a top basketball team out here. We went to the Geico National Championships 2 years in a row. I was with them. And one day, I had two kids that were fighting, right? And it was a young freshman that told the senior, take the earphones out. We're getting ready to work out. And one of my things is no earphones when we're working out because you can't hear the coaching, right? And so the senior, he looked at the youngster and he says, hey, man, don't tell me what the fuck to do. And they were about ready to get in a fight inside the gym. And I pulled them aside. The coach was there, do whatever. But I pulled them aside. I said, hey, chill out. Let me tell you something. Y'all a team right now, right? Just like I got a team over here. If I was to go against one of my teammates when I was in prison, you're probably going to get your ass kicked, right? Or you're going to have to fend for yourself, right? You need a team to survive. In life, in business, in sport, you need a team. So quit talking shit to each other. Let's get to work. And they looked at me, and they said, man, because white guy, right? Coach, what the hell are you in prison for? I said, don't worry about it. Let's get back to work, right? So then later I told them a little bit about it. You guys think you're hood and all this stuff, but I've been in that South Side. I've been to where you guys are trying to get out of, right? And some of you, like I said, not all of them are there, but I've been to the places that the people are trying to get out of. And so that doesn't really bother me, and I let them know that, and that was the first time of getting that off my back, and it was a weight. It was a weight. But that also went back in right after I did my podcast. Right. And so when I did that, I knew that it was there for a reason. Right. I don't just help people inside my four walls that move. I try to branch out and help people. I've got people contact me when they leave to go to colleges. I have them that call me all the time. And that's why I want to do the speaking stuff. That's why I've got my book coming out, because I know there's more people out there that I can help. And I want to bring my story, make it a little bit more vivid for everybody else, because it's an amazing story of not giving up.
And I think it's super important to get it out there, because I feel like perception. And one of the questions I like to ask guests is, how do you define success? So we'll kind of come back around to that. Sure. But one of the things that I feel like the perception of the general public is that, you have it easy because you're a white male.
All day.
Right?
All day.
And it's like, wait a second, you know nothing about me. You don't know that I've been through,
Yeah.
So anyways, let's ask that. How do you define success? What does that look like to you?
For me, and again, this goes back to gratitude. Success for me is how many people I can help, right? It's how many people I can help. And to see others do good.
Service mindset.
If I could, that's all I have. If I can help somebody, it's not about me. People say, "Man, you're a good trainer." I says, "I'm not a good trainer if my people don't do good." Right? I'm only as good as my people I work with. If you don't want to walk and I'm working with you, I'm not good to get you mentally locked in so you can come back from your ACL. Right? So I have to get to different values, and thankfully I've been pretty good at doing that. I'm very low key. Again, I give optimism all day long. So people can detect that, and it's good because the polar opposite is negativity. I get a lot of negative people, and either they like me or they hate me. Right? But the ones that like me, I can see the change, and that's success for me because I can get them to change. I don't work with everybody. Right? Because maybe I'm not your style.
Well, I'm sitting here looking at your shirt, which is crazy because I made a video and a picture of a shirt actually says nobody cares, work harder. And I think you've got it on, and that to me speaks so loudly. It's like nobody gives a shit. Nobody cares that you got a hangnail, that you whatever. And I talk to people sometimes where I'm like, look, you may be in a situation. Let's talk about road rage, right?
All day.
Who knows what the hell that person's been going through? They may have just got fired. They may whatever. It's like, you know what? They'll be out of your life in 30 seconds if you just sit back and let them go.
The guy the other day shot the guy that I saw on the news. The guy shot the guy the other day on road rage, killed him, and they said, "Why'd you shoot him?" He said, "Because he disrespected me." Disrespected somebody's life is we're taking for that.
Right. It doesn't make sense.
Unbelievable.
Doesn't make sense. And I think about, that whole thing where it's I'm going to meet you today. You're running a seemingly successful business, right? And to me, if I knew nothing about your background, I say, this guy's really cool. And not saying you're not because of your background, but I just, it's that whole perception thing. And I think that there's a lot of commonalities and there's a lot of things that I could jump on the bandwagon for. And then you learn about your background and it's like, holy shit, this guy walked through the fire and didn't stop and kept going, through all of it and continued to build himself. And you could have at any point taken that road hey, you know what? Get out. Go back to selling drugs.
Yep.
Could have made a lot of money doing that. Go back to, whatever it is, because, you're struggling, but you made the hard choice to say, you know what? I'm going to stay clean because, this woman's important to me, or these kids are important to me, or I want this for my life. So, I mean, that's huge.
Value.
Yeah.
We always talk about resilience, and I've used this, I don't know, it just came out a little bit ago. Resilience. What's resilience? The ability to bounce back, to get hit, punched, face, kick up, and Eddie fall down, how many times you get back up. We hear that all day long.
Yep.
And I was listening to Sean McVay, coach. He says, here's the deal. He said, there's a coach at Duke, a teacher at Duke, professor, and she's on the chalkboard, right? So she's got a class, she's teaching psychology, whatever, and she writes up the word resilience on the chalkboard. On the left-hand side of the chalkboard, she writes who you are. And on the right side, she says who you want to be. And she writes on the left side what you know. On the other side, what you want to know, right? And in between, from going from here to there, there's going to be a lot of ups and downs. And it's a squiggly line.
Yeah.
Right? And she circled that. She said, this is resilience right here. And she says it's not about the ups and the downs. She says resilience is the ability to stay in the frustration period the longest.
Oh, wow.
Right? And for those who are resilient, they can stay in that frustrated part. For me, ups and downs for me are not frustrating because I'm building, right? It is the build. It is the build to get back up. To build, really, for me, it's about building, right? I love construction. I love engineering. I love doing the body. But when people get frustrated, they seem to give up.
Yeah.
They do, right? And that's what I think breaks people, right? I never really see this frustration. Because again, there's you can learn so much. Eddie frustrated with paralyzed, right? But he told me, he goes, you have to be self-taught. And there's a lot of things in the world nowadays that we can learn on.
Yeah.
And so I don't get frustrated. I learn about it, right? I learn about opening up a business. Tim Hovick from Santan Ford is one of our good guys. And, I talk with Tim all the time. And, I want to be able to give back at his level. I want to be a philanthropist. I would love to donate to people. I love to go to the burn center, people that we have. My employees that I have, we're a small business. We have a 401k. We match everything 6% to our employees. Right? I want to give them a career, not a job.
Yeah.
Right? Because I had a job.
Yeah.
And I think if you give people a job, they're going to leave.
Yep.
Right? So I'm giving them a career. We're going to pay them accordingly to do it because without them, there's no me.
Yeah.
Right? And again, by doing that, and the way I have everything set up, my relationship, our people, I never get frustrated.
That's awesome.
I never get frustrated because there's a growth, there's a build, there's a plan that's in stash.
Yeah.
So what is resilience? Resilience is the ability to keep going.
That's awesome.
And what are you going to do? A statistics guy, right? I opened up Move. We survived COVID. We done all that. I think it's 1% of the people write a book.
Yeah.
Right? And publish it.
So tell me about the book.
Yeah.
It's called Move.
It's called Mind Over Virtually Everything. Yep. When I opened up Move, when I left Rehab Plus, I had a client, right? And she said, you have to write a book. She didn't know anything about my past. This was just about analogies and things that I did on the rehab side. So she says, you should write a book, right? So I want to give you this lady's name. So she gave me this girl, Laura. She gave me her number. Jackie and I, we did have time when I was opening Move. We sit down. We met her at Alma School in Baseline, I want to say, at a Starbucks. We sat down. We talked to this lady. She was a PhD professor at ASU, English and all this stuff. Gave her our story. Kind of gave her a little rundown about my story a little bit. Gave her a rundown about Jackie. And when we left, we had her crying. She said, man, these are unbelievable stories. You have to write a book. I said, what's the price of it? She said, $24,000. $24,000? I don't have that.
Yeah.
Right? That's a lot. I have $160,000 to open up Move.
Yeah.
And it's all allocated, so everything's accounted for. I'll get back with you on that. Right? So built Move. Everything's going. 2023, we expanded Move. So is it the same? Our service is the same. We actually took over another 2,700 square feet. So we got 5,400 square feet right now.
Oh, wow.
We have cryotherapy inside there. So we do physical therapy. We do sports performance. We do cryotherapy. So we have expanded. We went from Jackie and I, the 2 employees. We now have 8 employees, right? So it's growing, right? And we're giving people opportunities. We pay for all of our continuing educational stuff. So my 50th birthday last year, Jackie contacted Laura. She said, it's time to write this book. I want to give Chad the book for his present, right? She also knows I want to help other people.
Yeah.
And I love speaking. So I started writing this book, got down, I have a ghostwriter with me. We did a lot of different interviews. I've got a perfect guy. His name is James. Awesome. James Toll. He's out of Colorado. Was from Payson. So we have some Arizona roots, the country stuff. We have some connections. Sports guy. So we started talking about this. We started writing this book. Everybody's been through self-help, right? They've been through counseling classes if they haven't done the self-help. I've tried everything. Right? I don't know what to do. I hear this all the time. Weight loss, coming back from an injury, relationship stuff, I hear it too. What do I do after a divorce, or how do I do all this? What do I do? I feel lost. Right? I feel out of control. And I talk about it. If you feel out of control, it is because you are. You're not in control. You're never in control.
Yeah.
You're in command, but you're never in control. So by doing that, I started writing this book, and I wrote this book on self-help. It's simple. It's 10 codes of what you can do to change your life. But the word that I use is you, nobody else. You don't need somebody to tell you that you're depressed, because you're going to believe them.
Yeah.
You need you to tell you that you're not depressed, right? I didn't need me to tell myself I was a felon. I needed to tell myself that you were a business owner.
Yeah.
You're a CEO. You're not a junkie. No. You're a trainer. So those are the things I did, but you have to take a look in the mirror. And when everything's stripped away from you in prison, that's all you have.
Yeah.
I say it all the time. I have a blank piece of paper. I get to build it. Right? And so I started building a story, sat down with different chapters, and they said, well, what's your most important thing? How did you make all these things happen? And I said, I started to know who I was. I started to know who I was. Yeah. And not just what I want, not just my how or not my why, but I knew who I was. Chapter 1, self-identity. When you know yourself, there's a lot of things that can happen. And by doing that, you have to, I ask people now, first thing when you talk to somebody, so tell me a little something about yourself. People can't answer that.
They tell you what they do.
They tell you what they do.
Where they work.
Or they don't want to tell you because they're afraid.
Yeah.
They're vulnerable, right? I ask these kids, tell me a little something about yourself, right? I don't know what to say. Okay, so when somebody asks me, they say, tell me about yourself. I'm a 51-year-old male. I'm a CEO. I'm a convicted felon. I've been in prison. I got 6 DUIs. They're like, shit. I wasn't expecting that. But that's who I am.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to know my self-identity, I'm very optimistic. I'm going to be the guy that's rooting for you all the way to the last drop or the last run. When things are good, I'm going to be rooting for you. When things are bad, I'm going to be rooting for you. I'll be in your corner no matter what. That's my identity, is somebody that's going to help you. But really, who I am matches what my self-identity is, And those two have to go together. I hear people give me their identity. Oh, I'm a hard worker. Again, these are skills, and these, I play basketball. No, that's what you do, I want to know what your values are. I want to know what your beliefs are. And that's what I found when I was in prison, I knew what they were. Diet, politics, and religion. They're all in the same category. I put them all in the same category. We know what needs to be done. It's just a matter of doing them.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's also life. We all know what needs to be done. Life's not that hard.
Yeah.
It's just a matter about doing it all. So when I started doing, that's when Move became busy, right? That's when Chad became better. That's when my family became, and it grew. Everything's about doing, and you have to do it. And that's one person, if I say I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. I've got it written on my body. My tattoos now, those are my lessons, I've got right here on my side, believe only half of what you hear and all of what you see. That's opposite of what Edgar Allan Poe said. He said, believe only half of what you see and all of what you hear. Right? But don't tell me, show me, because in this new world that we're in right now, it's all about social media.
Yeah.
It's all about image, People don't want to, my wife, she has me doing some TikTok stuff now. I'm trying to, and I don't know anything about TikTok, I'm learning, but she said, your story of transformation, I see these things all day long about people that have been in trouble and getting out of it all. And it's amazing the responses that they get, And so it was, when I did that first podcast, Make the Difference, I got my whole story out. I sent it to a good buddy of mine that raced BMX bikes with us. And I said, this is either going to help us with success, like you said, with sex, or it's going to break me, And I don't want, Jackie doesn't want me mentioning Move. So I sent it to my buddy Danny. He listened. He said, bro, this is unbelievable. Can I let my kids listen to it all? And they're very good kids. They go to Hamilton High School and everything else. And I started hearing more families, and I started kind of giving them little samples of it all. And everyone's like, man, this is unbelievable. So that was my push to do the book, right? Is I wanted to put the story on paper. I brought it to the 10 codes, and at the end of it all, at the end of the book, it's not about me. It's about the reader. It's about the reader, I know I'm going to be fine. Trust me. I know I'm going to be fine. And I'm going to still continue to grow, My team, I'm trying to bring things to them. My business, we go to the doctors. You can't go to doctors referrals more because everything's corporate. They don't want to send them to small patients or to a private place like us. You can bring them a ham sandwich, and bring them all the food, but the doctors don't get to eat it. It's the people in the front that are just hungry and out of shape and don't exercise and that go to eat it all. It's bad. So it's a waste of our money for sales. The best thing that we can do is provide a good service, and provide a good service is to make sure that everything that you do has a purpose, and that's what we lead about. Every one of our employees have been through something. Right? We have a staff that's overcome things,
I think you have to, taking it to an insurance perspective, take the insurance out of the small stuff, the rehab, things like that, right? Because it does become about numbers. It becomes about, we'll call it a cattle yard.
It does.
How many people can you get through in 5, 10, 15 minutes? I've got 4 people on tables. I'm going to do 4 different modalities that I can rotate through, and I'm spending 3 minutes with these people, and
And that's what we choose not to do. So our business model, with our business model, we have, and I want 16 to 20 patients for each of our therapists throughout a long day. We're there for 11 hours. So it's not that busy with them. But we're structured that way. That's why we have training, and that's why we have the cryotherapy and everything else. We have ancillary income that come in. So it's not the McDonald's, it's the flip. Because that's what it is nowadays, because the insurance stuff. When I got into this, Blue Cross reimbursed, their reimbursement was $240 a session. Right now it's $65.
Wow.
United. We don't even take United Insurance no more. And most people don't take United Insurance anymore, just due to the fact that they don't want to pay. The business insurance, we have a cryotherapy taken there. It's a full body. You go your whole body in there, nitrogen free, so it goes from head to toe. We had a hard time getting that insured even as part of the business stuff, And it was crazy because what the cryotherapy is, yes, it's cold. Yes, it does different things for your body, the goods, inflammation, all that. But really what I tell people is that there's two things that research has show that people stress on. Divorces, relationships, going to prison, all these things. Those are all relative. But the human body stresses on hot and cold the same, right? We're in Arizona. We don't stress on the heat. But we do stress on the cold. We're not used to it. So that's why the cool plunges are a big thing here, because it puts you in a stressful situation where your body can release dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine, all the chemicals that make you feel good. If you're in Chicago, you probably don't have a lot of cool plunges. You probably have the saunas because they put you in a dry heat, something like Arizona, 120 degrees. So they put them in stressful situations. Insurance people don't want insurance stressful things.
Yeah.
Right? Because we don't know the whole thing. And I said, well, this is what you should insure, right? Because this is probably the one best thing that's out there.
Right.
It's letting people get mentally strong,
get
right?
better.
And getting better with it all. So, even the cryotherapy, and that's one of the things is I don't stress, right? Put yourself in that. You got 6 minutes in cryotherapy, or you got 20 minutes in an ice bath, whatever. I don't do cold plunges. I don't like cold water touching me. I'm a sissy when it comes to that. I'll do the cryo all day long.
Yeah.
I love the cryo. That's not. You feel so good. But again, when I get in the cryo, I'm in a holding cell. I calm down.
Yeah.
I calm down. And you wait for the next thing to hit you. Right? When I get out of the cryo tank, it's right back to work. It's right back to exercise. It's right back to life, But there's a moment in time that we all have to take a time. 6 minutes how long can you go for in there? Everybody always asks, well, what's the longest before you can get frostbitten? We don't know. We've never tested that, right? That's not something we're going to test. And we're not going to find out.
Yeah.
But I know I can take 6 minutes in there. I know I can take 10 minutes in there, right? Again, it's because I've been in stressful situations.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So again, everything's relative, but at the end of the day, is the services, the modalities, everything that we do down there it's to help people overcome and become the best person that they can be.
Tell me your location again.
We're on Arizona Avenue in Elliott.
Okay.
Yeah, Arizona Avenue, just right next to we're just east of the DES building.
And are you open for anybody to come?
Yeah. Well, for therapy, so we're not a membership. It's not a gym. So we do individual training, or group training type deal. We have sessions. We have packages for all that. Physical therapy, anybody can come. We take insurances. We have cash prices. We do dry needling. We do anything. Cryotherapy, we have it's $99 a month, unlimited use.
Oh, wow.
You can come every day for $99. So again, we just have that to bring people in. Bring people in with the whole thing. People always ask us about memberships, but with our environment and our vibe in there, it'd be full. It'd be full, because it's a great place. It's a sanctuary that we built, and everybody always asks what's Move. First of all, everyone says Move's the vibe, right? But to me, Move is a sanctuary where there's a lot of transformations, including mine, that has taken place. And when people come in there, I got my boy JJ that was, he was in a car fire and everything else. And, the burn unit, I have a lady at the burn unit. She says, go see Chad and the team down at Move, because they will get you right mentally. I don't need you to go see a psychologist right now. You need to go be around people that have overcome things and have done miraculous things. And that's when people come in, they say, well, Chad, how do you know you can get me better? I said, because I've gotten myself better.
Yeah.
I've done it.
2 questions. You could, and obviously you motivate people all the time, but you're in a room, you've got 30 seconds to motivate the room. What do you say?
Move with a purpose and live with passion. Easy.
Simple enough.
Yep, simple. It's simple. Everything wants the hard thing. Yeah. It's not. It's simplicity.
Where do you go from here?
From here, I'm going on stage, right? I want to be in 50,000 people. I want to have a full stadium. I want to be in the middle of it all. Again, Move human performance. I'm a performer.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what it really is. When I do training and do everything else, I'm a performer. Yeah. And I can perform only inside my place. But right now, I can only help the people that want the help, you know. My thing that I have this week for all my athletes, and it's hard because of what I do in my whole life, of how I do things. Training without the right intensity is just exercise.
Makes sense.
right?
Yeah.
Living without the intensity, is that really called living? Right? Or are you growing, right? And so for me, I'm always intense about everything I do. So I'm not just living, I'm growing,
Yeah.
right? And I talk about it. You're either growing or you're dying.
Yeah.
You know? So what's next for me? Obviously, I've got to get, the $100 speeches, the 200s, the 500s, the thing. But that's a plan. Yeah, that's a plan. It's like shooting targets. I got a 50-meter target. Right now, my book is my 50-meter target. It's going to be out next week.
Yeah.
Right? Pre-launch is coming out. I've spent 16 months doing it. My 100-meter target, that's attainable. It's going to be my first speaking engagement somehow. I'm focused on it right now. It's pretty close. I know it's coming. But the 50,000 people I want to be speaking to, that's the 300-meter target.
Nice.
It's out there. It's out there.
Do you have a social media following website? Where can people find you?
Yeah, social media stuff. Obviously, our websites. I've got mindovervirtualeverything.com. Again, that's going to be for my speaking stuff. The book's going to be on there. That's more my personal about what I do to inspire people. Everybody wants to be a social media influencer. I'm not here to influence you. I'm here to inspire you. Right?
Nice.
I'm not here to be an influencer. I don't want to be an influencer. I want to be an inspiration. I've got all the movehumanperformance.com. That's our one. You can see all the action that happens. Mind Over Virtual Everything. Obviously, the Instagrams and Twitters. I have all those. So the biggest thing, mindovervirtualeverything.com websites, and then the social media, Chad at Chad Rehab Plus, or Chad Dunn at Instagram. Yep.
Awesome.
Yep. So I will have all those links.
Well, hey, this has been awesome. And
appreciate
you truly, and I'm not just saying this because you just said it, you've inspired me. I mean, I love stories of resiliency. I love stories of passion and hard work and getting kicked in the teeth and getting back up and moving forward. So I'm glad Brennan sent you over my way. And
there's not one thing we can't do.
No, I'm glad it worked out, because I do truly passionately believe, and you said it, we're one decision away from good or bad.
Yep.
And we all have the ability to make that one decision, to take one step.
We do.
Right? Today, I'm going to take one step.
Yep. I just one in a row. Yeah, one in a row. And with that, as you close here, I'll give you one last thing is everybody wants to raise the bar. Even in life, I'm trying to raise the bar or raise the ceiling, What are you shooting for? And I've thought about it over the times, and when you happen to fall, like I have fallen, I was reaching for the bar. I was up there, I was doing things, but it fell way down, I always say you can't fall out of a ditch. I was in the ditch.
Yeah.
Right? I was at the bottom. Rock bottom is being in prison.
Yeah.
It's not being the druggie on the street. You have still opportunities.
Yeah.
It's being in there. But what I do now is I raise the floor. Whenever I fall, I ain't falling that
You're
far.
not falling that far.
No. So I don't even worry about the bar.
Yeah.
I worry about the floor. And so my baseline now is most people's highest levels that they get into,
Nice.
And that's just how I do it. But again, it all comes off perspective. And like you said, it's about going above and beyond.
Yep.
I can go above and beyond that bar, but again, it's got to start from the floor. And when you raise the floor higher, your bar becomes higher.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Don't worry about raising the bar, raise the floor.
Well, Chad, it's been a pleasure.
Jan, I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, I've got something for you here. Everybody gets one. This is just a little token of my appreciation. You can use it for juice or whatever it is that you like to drink, but it's just a little glass, got your name engraved on it, or etched on it, I should say. But I appreciate you coming on and going above and beyond with me. So
that's awesome, man. That's awesome. I'll put this up for sure. Definitely. But again, gratitude, man. There you go. That's the service of giving.
There you go. Well, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for having me. This is Chad Dunn, and I've gone above and beyond.
Red tape, no politics inside. Just genuine bonds taking flight. Above par network. We're going above and beyond. Reaching new heights. In networking realms. Scaling the heights. From mixers to golf. Our spirits unite. APN's the beacon, our guiding light. work, we truly thrive.